Welcome to Ivory GC. Today we are joined by Rich Sarhaddi, General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer at Aspen Standard Wealth. Rich brings nearly 20 years of experience advising investment firms and helping legal and compliance functions grow and innovate. From Vanguard's personalized indexing efforts to his leadership at Aspen, Rich's path reflects a thoughtful balance of legal rigor and forward-looking business strategy. We'll explore what it takes to lead legal and highly regulated and fast-moving environments, and how Rich sees the future of compliance, leadership, and the evolving role of the General Counsel. Rich, welcome to Ivory GC. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
So let's start with a little bit about what you're up to. Current role, current company. Maybe give us a background on what you're doing today.
Yeah, of course. So I'm the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer of Aspen Standard Wealth. We are a platform firm of Alpine investors, a private equity firm, and this platform is investing in registered investment advisory firms. So we're buying registered investment advisory firms, and we're not rolling them up into one RIA, but we're kind of Warren Buffett style, letting them run as they were with their own unique identity and really helping to grow them into the future. So serving as a succession plan for the CEOs and founders that have grown the firms for the last 25 years, and helping those advisors that got them there continue with the growth trajectory of the firms.
What does a legal and compliance function look like?
So legal and compliance, we are a team of one now with some consultants and two really trusted outside counsel. We are growing the team in the next couple months to facilitate taking over a lot of the compliance functions at RIAs. We only have two right now. We are closing on a couple at hopefully the end of June. So we'll be at roughly 8 to 10 billion in RIA asset AUM, and that it's going to be time for us to explore expanding the team. But we're using consultants at this point in time. It's working well, but as we grow, we want to internalize it so we can make things uniform across the platform.
So and you mentioned the organization structure of Aspen a bit. Do the RIAs that you purchase, do they have their own legal teams that collaborate for their business, or is it how does that work?
So legal for those firms is all coming through me now. They've had outside counsel, most of them. Yeah. So our target platform RIA, we call them, are around between 500 to 3 billion in assets, more at the upper end. So those platform firms, some of them are large enough to have their own CCO. Most of them have a dual-hatted executive or manager level person doing the CCO job because it's required by law. And then they either have a small compliance team in-house or they use consultants. Most do not have in-house legal counsel. So I'm serving as legal counsel, and what that does is because we're making a lot of the different services uniform, I'll be able to it's a one-to-many approach from a legal standpoint and a compliance standpoint.
So what is your day-to-day looking like? I mean, what's keeping you busy? What types of issues are you handling most frequently, and that type of thing?
It's across the board. I have tons of employment issues constantly, as well as contract vendors. We are trying to onboard a tech stack across all of our firms, and so we're actively negotiating with a bunch of different vendors there, CRMs, those types of things, but also trading software, wealth management software. So I negotiate a lot of those agreements, but then I'm doing due diligence for our deals, and so the legal and regulatory due diligence specifically related to the Investment Advisors Act and Investment Company Act I handle. And we have a very strong pipeline, and things are moving very quickly. And then, if there are issues identified, I get involved in negotiating those items in our purchase agreements as well, just for extra protection for us. But I'm involved in reviewing that as well. So it kind of runs the gamut. At some point in time, I'll be doing real estate. Actually, I handled our office space real estate agreement in New York, and probably will do it in Chicago. So it's very general practice. Yeah. And when I get issues that I need outside help on, that's when I call outside counsel.
Yeah.
But for the regulatory pieces, I'm the main person.
Got it. So how long have you been in this space? Can you talk a little bit about the kind of trajectory of your career?
Yeah, I started in the investment advisory space really with my first real legal job out of law school. And it was kind of a startup mutual fund investment firm. And that's where I kind of whet my appetite for the space. So I really liked it. I moved on from there to start a hedge fund with one of my friends. It was kind of the time to do it. He was amassing some interesting clients. We needed a set amount of assets under management to execute the strategy, and we just couldn't raise the money. So I went back into working for others. But it was a good time in my life to try something like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it gave me the experience. I mean, I wrote the private placement memos. I was involved in creating the decks, all the disclosures, all of that, some fun stuff. And so it was, you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah.
And so that was like 6-8 months. But then I went back into securities for some publicly traded company, and did their securities reporting, handled all their 8Ks and that sort of thing. That one went bankrupt. It was a Chicago-based video game company called Midway Games. And so I was looking for a while, and I landed at a company called OptionsXpress, which was a broker-dealer and an investment advisor. We specialized in options, but we traded everything. And then we had an RIA platform as well. So I learned a ton there. It was really fast-moving startup environment, and we were looking to get bought by somebody in it's around 2008, 2009-ish, when options got really hot. TD Ameritrade bought a company in Chicago called Thinkorswim. It was another options trading firm. And so Schwab scooped us up, and that's how I landed at Schwab. And so at Schwab, I was there for almost 10 years, and I was on the advisor services team there, handled advisor matters. And then when they were starting to build their intelligent portfolios, kind of robo-advisor. It was a robo-advisor, but then there was a piece of it that actually had human advisors as well. Okay. I was kind of tapped to handle the lead legal on that front, which was like a big break for me, to be honest with you. It was really the coolest project in the company at the time, and I was really happy to have my boss at the time, Steve Johnson. He tapped me for that role, and kind of it kind of mapped the trajectory for the rest of my career. From there, I went to Vanguard. So I was doing the Schwab Intelligent Portfolios role for about 2 years. Vanguard had a competing offer called Personal Advisor Services, and they were looking for a head of compliance. And so got a call from them. Moved my family out from Chicago out to Pennsylvania, beautiful area out there near Villanova, Radnor area, and worked at Vanguard for 5 years, heading up their personal advisor services compliance team, as well as became the CCO of their first acquisition. It was a personalized indexing firm called Just Invest that we renamed Vanguard Personalized Indexing. So it was a fascinating time to be at Vanguard doing their first deal. And I was involved in the diligence, and we did a pilot with them prior. And so that was a time when Vanguard was looking to do more in the acquisition space and partnership space, and they had traditionally not done that. So I was really lucky to be able to work on that and kind of start the process of Vanguardizing the Just Invest business, and from a compliance perspective, they were doing great, but we were rolling them into the way we did compliance at Vanguard.
Yeah, interesting. So when would you say your career kind of took a turn towards more of a general practice, or has it been pretty generalized for the last decade or so?
So really, like on the legal side, I always had been focused on regulatory, but the roles that I found myself in needed a generalized knowledge or somebody who can handle generalized legal support. One of the roles I had at Schwab, for example, was, well, even my first job, I was legal counsel at a company called Claymore. They were a startup. They were a startup mutual fund company. So I did everything. We had
legal counsel and everything else.
We had this little small building that was our headquarters in a town called Wheaton in the suburbs. And I'm talking about, it was a house converted into a business space. And they wanted to sell it because we had been growing. We got a couple big deals, and we were buying a full-fledged office building in one of the neighboring cities. And so I drive out from Chicago. They put my name on the sign as the guy to contact for real estate, and I was a real estate agent. And I went out there and showed the property, and finally, eventually got it sold. And so I have that. I'm just one of those people that likes to help in all different ways. And if there's something I need to get up to speed on, I mean, this is a message for. We're going to get to this later, but a message for any attorney: like, if you're a lawyer, you went to law school, you passed the bar, you can learn things. So nothing is rocket science, and you can, if you put your head down to it and get the right resources, you can learn anything. 100%. And so that's kind of, you got to learn by doing and tap the right people. But that's kind of my mindset. So I like the generalized approach, but it's also good, in my opinion, to have like a strong focus that you're like the go-to guy for. And on the regulatory side, that's where I'm at. I'm there.
Got it. So you've led legal and compliance functions across institutions like Vanguard, now Aspen Standard Wealth. What attracted you to Aspen, and how did your previous experiences shape your approach to the role?
So Aspen was it's really unique in the industry. You don't get a opportunity for a role like this very often. I had always been intrigued by private equity and what they were doing in our space. I follow Mercer and Cap Trust and some of the big aggregators in our space. And I thought that would be interesting. I actually had a job at another firm for a very short period of time before taking on the Aspen role. I had been talking to both. I got the offer from the other firm. I don't name them because I was only there for 8 days, and it was just. But it was one of those. It was so hard for me to make the move. I mean, just because I was there for 8 days. But this Aspen role, it's just like once in a lifetime in many ways. And so we're doing something that we're backed by a really awesome private equity firm who understands what we need in the business. And then we're starting from scratch with that backing and support. And I can build something, from scratch. Usually in our professional careers, you're taking over for something that's already there. Right. And, making it better, hopefully continuously improving it. But this is kind of all of our babies, all the leadership team's babies. It's the marketing person's baby. It's the ops person's baby. It's the growth officer. It was an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up. And I believe in what we're doing too. I think that we are giving founders an exit strategy and a succession plan, and really kind of rewarding them for their labor over 25 years building these firms. There's a lot of competition in this space. And so we're giving them comfort. We're also giving their clients continuity of, I'm from a doctor's family, but continuity of care, because that's what we are doing. I mean, we're making sure that their assets are still being managed in the way that they've gotten used to when they're comfortable. And there's so many win-wins in this scenario, as opposed to going to some big firm and selling a fund or whatever. You don't see that connection about what you're doing. So that's another main driver for it.
That's great. So at Vanguard, you were responsible for compliance in both personalized indexing and the multi-billion advisory business. Yeah. What leadership lessons did you bring from that scale into a more agile firm?
So we were operated very flat at Vanguard. It was a large organization, but I think what I learned there is that how much you can do with the right allocation of resources. You don't have to have all the resources in the world, but you have to have people that are proactive in the compliance space and not reactive. You have to be able to select those people and select out those people that aren't. And then you have to be able to give them the runway to operate the way they want to operate. But you still have to be engaged with them. So it showed me we had a great team, an awesome team when I got to the role. But over time, people moved around a lot at Vanguard, and so you lose people, and so I was able to bring in and just identify those people, those kind of characteristics. But that's huge because you can do more with less in most situations as long as you have the right people. Yeah. And I think that I've been at large organizations, small organizations, and some of them weren't optimized in that way. Schwab was in many ways, but others weren't. And so you have people that are kind of just dotting an I and crossing a T all day. That's not value. You want the people that can do that, but then will think strategically as well, because the compliance space, because of it's highly regulated, you have to be able to see around corners. You have to be able to get deep with the business to understand what they want to do, and then apply your regulatory knowledge and say, okay, well, we come from a place of yes, and we understand where you want to go. Let's get you there in the right way. And you don't get that with people that don't have that engagement and aren't proactive. So that was important.
Yeah. What would you say the most defining moment in your career that's shaped how you lead today?
It really was my time at Schwab.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I had two leaders at Schwab that really showed me what good leadership is and how to motivate a person. Well, and if I'll name him, one of them is Christopher Gilkerson. He was the general counsel of Charles Schwab and Co. He also is my outside counsel on the regulatory side now. And the other is Steve Johnson. And so Steve's catchphrase was, the more brains in the room, the better. He didn't care about levels or anything like that, or how much experience you had. He wanted to hear from everyone because everyone was valued. And I think that is what I take. That's what I've taken with me. Plus, and Christopher was the same way, and they both had unbelievable subject matter expertise, but they both really knew the business, had excellent relationships within the business, and they were the people who the business leaders went to for even business questions. They wanted their business hat on, not just the legal hat. They were people that crossed swim lanes because they wanted to. The business partners wanted to do that, and so watching them and how they navigated and how they developed the relationships with the business people, that was kind of seeing that and how you do that. And you're not just a legal person. You can do that if you want, but you're only going to be that. That's what your role is going to be. And so seeing it broader is something that I took from them, and I think my personality goes well with that, because I like people, and I also want to know the end game and help to get there. And so that kind of helped release that in me, if so to speak.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some of the most common compliance or legal pain points that come with supporting advisor growth?
So one of the biggest is, aside from the rules and regulations that have been constantly changing, and sometimes you don't know where you're at, there are, at least on the growth side for advisors, and what we're trying to do is there are many, many different rules that you have to abide by from a state perspective. So let's say you want to do some centralized marketing and have a group of people that are making calls on behalf of your different advisors. You have to really know all the rules and the states that they may be touching, what they can and can't do. Do we have to register them there? Do we not have to register them there? How do you structure it so that you can have the least regulatory touch with the biggest bang for your buck? And then, how do you do risk mitigation and just assess risk? That's the biggest one from a legal and compliance standpoint is that for a growth perspective. And then it's marketing. The new marketing rule came out a couple of years ago. It is still it's nascent. There have been some FAQs on it. Most of them have to do with performance, but we don't have a lot of information about some of the other more common uses that advisors in my space are using it for, like testimonials and endorsements and case studies and those types of things. So making sure that our marketing materials are compliant. I think you can do that from a black letter law perspective, but there's gray areas, and you want to make sure you're on the right side of the gray. But what we're doing is, we're not doing anything groundbreaking in that regard.
Sure.
But it's still, you just don't know until cases come out, until there are enforcement actions, until the SEC comes out with more guidance. So it's you're kind of tiptoeing at this point in time.
When you're in a new regulatory area like that, how would you characterize your general approach to navigating compliance?
Well, I think number one, from a training, we train. So I've written a policy that we're going to use across the board at all our RIAs, because our marketing function is centralized, and so we need that uniformity. But training on these points, and then understanding from a marketing perspective, like we don't market performance, so we're not going to really delve deep into that. We need to know about it. But what are the pieces that we're doing testimonials, we're doing endorsements, we're doing referrals, so solicitation. And so really concentrating on those and just providing guardrails, do's and don'ts, examples. Here's something that works. Here's something that doesn't work. And then social media is another area that we're exploring, and just giving good examples for our people in our training sessions. But then it doesn't stop there. It's making sure that we're doing ongoing monitoring of what is going up. And there's a couple things that we've had to just minor that we've had to kind of adjust and repost. But that's the most important thing, like letting them know, letting your business partners, your marketing people know that, hey, we're going to be reviewing this stuff. I mean, we're going to review it first, but if there are things that slip through the cracks, you've been trained on it, but we're also going to do some additional assurance testing, and that's how we handle it.
So when onboarding new advisors, what legal or compliance components are critical to get right immediately?
We have to do a gap analysis on the policies and procedures at the firm. And so it's really just like a mini exam. So we're going to like a mock exam of the firm's policies and procedures, making sure that what they say they're doing, they are doing. If they say they're supposed to be doing something in their policies and procedures program that they're not doing, we're making sure we're documenting it. And then we're meeting with the people that are executing the policies and procedures at the firm, just to make sure, hey, are you really doing this? Is there a better way to do it? How can we best reflect what you guys are doing, make it more efficient? And that's like number one, because and then some of these firms I'm going to be the CCO of as well. And so it's even more important from that standpoint that we have everything in place. I don't want to, because I'm going to be the CCO. It has to be my way in many ways. The ones that have CCOs and they're doing a fine job, and we don't want to change it. Many of them have had recent exams. They came out with flying colors. So there's nothing really to change there. But for the ones that I'll be CCO of, and then the pieces of their program that we're centralizing across the board, we just have to make that uniform. But that initial gap analysis is the most important. And thankfully, it also serves it as an annual review, so we meet the regulatory requirement as well.
There you go. Got it. So how do you ensure your legal and compliance strategy doesn't just protect the business, but also enables it to grow?
Well, so we want to, what we're setting these firms up for is growth. And I tell every one of them from a compliance standpoint, what you're doing today may be fine, but we want to set you up for what you're going to look like $1 billion or $2 billion more from now, because you need those reps now and not then. And the minute as you increase your assets and as you increase your product line and your growth, you change your peer groups from a SEC standpoint. They look at you differently. You got a clean bill of health as a $750 million advisor today, but you're going to be $1.5 billion. That's going to elevate you. So it's a long way of saying my goal is to kind of this, like I told you before, see around corners,
Yeah.
and make the firm's compliance program look like that of a larger firm, because that's what they'll be in anticipation of that. And so making sure, hey, we don't have any committees today. We do everything informally. Nope, we're gonna formalize some of these processes. We're gonna just make you look more mature. That's my job. And so that's one of the things that's the first thing that we kind of talk about.
With the SEC increasingly focused on marketing rules, fee transparency, and the use of technology, how do you help firms stay ahead of changes before they become costly problems?
Well, it's one of the functions that we developed, and it's one of the main functions. It's regulatory change management, and it's nice because we can do it one to many, Aspen to all. So
Right.
we are constantly monitoring the rules. I am really plugged into our association, the Investment Advisor Association. They're like our top organization in our industry who advocates for us, and I've helped advocate with them on a couple of one big rule before I came to Aspen. But I think that's number one, is staying on top of regulatory change management and having a process to implement those changes. So review, implementation. At Vanguard, I with another person headed up the marketing rule implementation. And so it was a 2-year process. And they give you quite a long period of time to review and make sure you can get compliant by the due dates. But that rule is critical. I don't know how much we're going to see of new rules in the next 4 years or so. So we'll get a break. And I think some of the rules may be clawed back a little bit. But at the same time, there's the pace of regulation is going to continue. I mean, that's what they do. And so we have to stay on top of it. So the regulatory change management piece is super important. And
As both GC and CCO, how do you define success across those two different but interconnected functions?
Yeah. So I love the combination of the roles, because it gets me, like, allows me to do both. And working with outside counsel on the rule interpretation, and then how are other firms implementing, what's their interpretation of all this. A really good example is AI, but we can get into that later. But so that legal interpretation and advice on how, what is the rule, how does it impact us?
Yeah,
that's the legal side. And then what I really like about the compliance side is operationalizing those rules and getting in there nitty gritty with the ops people, with the people who are executing on the business side, and making sure that we're putting all the right controls in place. And those sorts of things. And so those are the two sides of the same coin. But that's the gratifying piece of it. You don't just go, here's what the law says, goodbye.
Yeah.
You say, here's what the law says. Let's wrap it into how we do business here.
You mentioned AI. What are some of the trends that are really hitting your business, either from a legal perspective or otherwise?
I mean, if you're not using it for research, for drafting memos, of course, always reviewing the output and understanding where it's getting its research from, you're really missing out on a massive efficiency gain. When I first started using it, I plugged in, something for a really simple policy, and what came out was quite amazing. I mean, we at Ivory, we do every 2 weeks, we do a best practice review, or someone from our team will present to the rest of the team about something in the area of law practice management, or whatever it might be. And ChatGPT, big shout out to that tool for our presentations, because I mean, it can really get you. It can get you far along the way, and like you said, it's not perfect, requires review, but it's pretty impressive what the capabilities are. Amazing. For just legal research, a lot of this stuff on the regulatory side, and Advisors Act, investment, it's out there, and so you don't need to feed it a bunch of information. When you do specific stuff, like for hey, I have this policy from the past. Let's blend it with this other firm's policy, and this is what they do, and this is how you tweak. It comes up with just amazing. So I think that is an area that if you're not using it, you really need to learn how to do it. We just had a training the other day. It was a really in-depth 4-hour training on how to create your own GPTs and just specialty ones. It's fascinating. So I think you should be using it. On the regulatory side, though, there are questions of whether or not if you use a note taker transcription and you want a summary of a client meeting or something like that, what is that a record? Do you have to keep that in your records database? If it just automatically disappears on the Copilot platform or whatever you're using, are you in trouble? That's where we haven't heard that. If you email it to yourself, it becomes a record because it's in your email and now it's trapped in there. But there are some of those questions out there that are still that the regulators haven't spoken on, and there was a spate of a bunch of enforcement actions by the SEC on the lowest hanging fruit that there is email communication. There was off-channel communications, and they fined firms billions of dollars for having people were using their iPhones to chat as opposed to the approved methods. So there is some risk out there on that, and we just don't know yet. So that's one of the, and then AI generally, if you're using it in your investment processes and things like that, there are things that you need to address from a compliance standpoint and a disclosure standpoint. But it's still the Wild West.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's amazing how fast things are moving. When you're building or mentoring legal and compliance teams, what are the top traits you look for in emerging leaders?
Being hungry.
Yeah.
Being proactive. People who ask a lot of questions and desire feedback is something. But just people that are self-starters are really the most important. I think like those are the people that are going to be the most successful. Those are the people who are going to dig really, really deep. And the people that exhibit that, those are the people that I spend the most time with from a mentoring standpoint. Like I'll bring them to meetings maybe that they wouldn't have had access to if they weren't that type of person. I will give them the stretch assignments that will help them. There's one guy, really great guy, who at Vanguard, he was a great speaker. Speaking was important there because there was a lot of presentations and that sort of thing. And he was great one-on-one and in our meetings, but he was afraid to do it. And I had to lead the annual compliance meeting one year for the whole firm. And I told him, well, you're doing this. You're going to be the guy that is interviewing so-and-so and really helping him grow in that way. And he after that, he's just awesome. And like he was great. So I think that you can't mentor everyone. I think the ones who show you that they have the desire and they're proactive and all those other things, those are the ones I spend my time on. And
that's great. So what advice would you give to a junior attorney or compliance professional who hopes to build a leadership career in the wealth management industry like yourself?
Well, I would say do not limit yourself. Your career is long and it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I think every single task that you take on, do it with the most gusto you can. Be that proactive person. Be inquisitive. Do the research on your own. If there's an area of your firm or of law that you want to get into, educate yourself on that and just kind of have the mindset that you'll get there. I never thought I went to like a second-tier law school in Chicago. I didn't think I was going to be at the end of my career at a private equity firm doing what I'm doing. And I think you just have to be really persistent with your goal. And the one thing that I'll leave, and I tell people this, it's really powerful for me. I think about it all the time. There was a Steve Jobs. He did the commencement speech at Stanford, and he talked about a couple things. One of them was their career path, and he basically said, I know he's looking out on these kids, all smart Stanford grads, and they all think they can plan their career like that day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And he just said to them, he's like, you can't connect the dots going forward, you can only connect them going backwards. And the only thing you can control with that is your intent at each dot, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'll leave. I mean, that's what I would have told myself back 20 years ago, is that, you want to do X, Y, and Z. If you put yourself in the right spot and have ambition and try really hard and be proactive and all those other things, and a self-starter, and educate yourself, you will get there. And you did.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your insights. It's been a great conversation, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Brian, so much. Appreciate it.